Hi guys, welcome to Grammar and Writing Lesson 115. So today we are not going to be worrying about vocabulary. Woohoo! You will have to have vocabulary in tomorrow's lesson because we will be doing that on PowerPoint. Anytime we do PowerPoints, yes, we'll have vocabulary, but anytime we don't do PowerPoint, no vocabulary, okay? Sorry guys, let me check out one little thing. Okay. Sorry guys. There we go. Right on. Okay, so we don't have vocabulary today. Woohoo, like I said. You are going to be writing a persuasive essay. So I want you to take out your pages 20 through 22. So they look like this. This is your first page. It says preparing to write a persuasive essay. That's what the back of that page should look like. And then you have another page following that, page 22. That's just a little blurb right there, okay? Because I'm going to mostly just be reading through this and kind of talking as I read. Then we're going to stop and we're going to practice a little bit. Part of it will even be doing what you're going to be doing for your homework. So let's get started. So first of all, there's 4 purposes for writing, and we've already done some of these types of writing already. Every piece of writing has a purpose. There are 4 basic purposes for writing: narrative, expository, descriptive, and persuasive. So let's talk about each of them. The first one would be narrative. So we have narrative writing. All right. What does our book say about that? Well, narrative writing tells a story or relates a series of events. A letter describing your 5-day backpack trip in the high Sierras would be narrative writing. And so it tells, a lesson where that's worked on. Honestly, I don't remember if we've done the narrative. I believe we've done the narrative. Yeah, we've done the narrative. We've done narrative and we've done prescriptive. We've done narrative and we've done descriptive. So we're going to do persuasive soon. But narrative is telling a story, relating a series of events. So you're someone who is the one telling a story, we call that person the narrator. So narrative writing is what tells a story. You are the narrator. You are describing a story, a series of events. Like, for example, if you went on a trip and you wanted to tell me what happened on that trip. Okay, the next one would be expository. Let's add that one, expository. So what is expository writing? Well, expository writing gives information or explains. So like X in expository, explains. It's an exposition. A scientific article entitled How a Microwave Works is an example of expository writing. This says, if you, an essay from a previous part in the book explaining how fireworks can be dangerous is an example of expository writing. So expository is when you're explaining something. It's an exposición sobre algo. You're going to explain how something works or explain how something is dangerous. It's an explanation. That's your expository, okay? Explaining information, giving information even would be expository. So it's not a story, you're giving information. This would be, more of a true to life thing that's not a story. Falls under the category of expository. Next we have descriptive writing. You did this when you did your character sketch. Those of you who actually did your character sketch. You did descriptive writing with your character sketch. This writing describes a person, place, or thing. Examples include a brochure describing beautiful Glacier Bay in Alaska, a personal composition about your favorite cousin, and a lost dog poster that tells exactly what the lost dog looks like. So any type of writing that describes something would be descriptive. And the last one would be persuasive writing. Okay, and that's what we are working on right now. You've been studying persuasive writing and the different techniques to use. So what is it again? Persuasive writing attempts to convince someone to do or believe something. An advertisement for tough cotton balls an article about the importance of saving an old oak tree from being uprooted by housing developers, and a campaign flyer urging voters to elect a certain candidate are all examples of persuasive writing. So it's when you try to get somebody to believe something or be on a certain side, to have a certain opinion that you also share, usually, unless it's, for an exercise, maybe you might have to write about something that you don't actually personally share. But for the most part, when you are writing persuasive writing, it'll be your opinion that you want to get somebody else to agree with. So let's look into what the persuasive essay is. Bottom of page 20. Keeping in mind the structure of a complete essay described in lesson 1, which actually you guys did look at that way back in the beginning of the year. The only person who was not with us at the time was Camila. But Camila, you've learned how to be writing from Miss Bethany, I know. So it applies to you too. We shall prepare to write a persuasive essay using the following sentence as our thesis statement. People should not be allowed to smoke in restaurants. So, la gente no debe de estar permitida de fumar en un restaurante. En mi estado, en los Estados Unidos, eso no es permitido de la ley. Usted no puede fumar en ningún edificio, realmente. No importa, es un restaurante o una tienda, no puede fumar adentro de un building, okay? So this is a persuasive essay that for you to try to get people to understand that should not happen. So the goal of this essay will be to convince or persuade the reader that people should not be allowed to smoke in restaurants. Persuasive essays usually deal with the controversial topic subjects that have two sides. So one side would say, yes, you can smoke in restaurants, and one side says, no, you shouldn't. If you prefer, you may argue the opposite side and rewrite the thesis statement to read, okay, no. I don't want you to argue the opposite side. I wanted to read this part with you because I wanted you to see that it's in there, but I also wanted to draw your attention to it because I want to make sure this is clear. I don't want you writing for the opposite side. I do want you to think about the opposite side, to put yourself in their place of what the opposite side would think, so that you can argue effectively against them. Remember, we talked about that as a writing strategy. Think of arguments, opposing arguments, and then what could you say to defend your point of view from that opposing argument. So your essay will prove that your thesis statement is correct, that people should not be allowed to smoke in restaurants. You will convince the reader of this. So when I read your essay, I'm going to read it from trying to put myself in the place of somebody who thinks you should be allowed to. And I want you to convince me that no, you should not. And if your essay doesn't convince me, you may have to write it again. All right, so let's talk about brainstorming. Brainstorming is always our first step in writing an essay. We talked about this not in lesson 2, but we talked about drawing a circle in the middle of a blank sheet of paper. Inside the circle, write the thesis statement. Then quickly begin to write in the area outside the circle any and all words that come into your mind as soon as they come into your mind. Write quickly, don't worry about spelling or neatness. Write for about 3 minutes or until your paper is covered with words, whichever comes first. Okay, so we're gonna stop and I'm going to do this with you. Okay, so you need to get out a piece of paper right now. Pause your video if you need to.